This 3-minute mixing strategy is special because not only is it used by all of these Grammy award-winning artists, producers, and mix engineers, but it's even helped a 35-year-old balding producer in his Miami bedroom. Here's the proof. My mix before and after I applied the exact steps I'm going to show you in this video. All great mixes have great focus, which means shitty mixes like mine right here, they lack focus. I want you to listen carefully. I'm gonna play my song and I just want you to say this out loud. What element is the clear focus in my mix? I bet that was pretty difficult and you all probably have completely different answers. And that's because most of my elements are roughly the same volume. There's no real separation between what is important and what is not. There's no focus. In mixing, we create focus through volume. Whatever is loudest, the ear is automatically going to pay attention to that first. So let's use this to our advantage. We can place our more important sounds louder in the mix, which positions them up front, and our secondary, less important sounds quieter in the mix, which pushes them further back on stage. Let's do this together now. I'm going to start by muting all of the channels in my project. Next, I'll begin unmuting them one by one based on importance. I want to start though with like the 3, 4, 5 core elements that are doing 90% of the work in my mix. Think of this as like the main players in the band. I asked Moose what he thought, and in this specific song, he said go with the kick, snare, hat, bass, and lead. I want to spend the time getting these right because this is the foundation of my mix. And if these don't sound incredible together, the whole track is going to crumble. All right, once I have these sounding nice, I'm going to bring in the first of my 2 main lead layers. This lead synth I think of as like the lead singer in my song. It's the sound I want to be up front on stage because this is carrying the focus. So then let's just make sure it's also at a volume that represents its importance. It's got to be loud enough so it sounds like it's standing one step in front of the other instruments in the mix. Great. Now let's bring in the second lead layer, which I want to be tucked right behind this main one. Almost think of the main lead as Batman and the secondary one as Robin. It's backup. So I'm going to bring this in, and as I bring the volume up, I want to make sure it doesn't overpower anything else that was already in the mix because it's not more important than those core elements we started with. All right, this sounds pretty good. I think it's time to bring in the remaining elements in the mix, the background elements. The rule of thumb here is going to be none of these secondary sounds should come in and overpower any of the previous sounds we started with. They should be sitting behind, which means quieter. This is sounding pretty good, and it's a long ways from where we started, just by manipulating volume. Although this this is sounding good, we haven't really talked about it all yet, so I want to go over 3 scenarios that will pop up when mixing like this. What happens if you want the focus to change section to section? Or even within one section, you want 2 instruments to trade off in terms of being the focus. You can do this a few ways. You could just start with instrumentation, adding elements and subtracting elements to change focus. The other way you could do this is with automation, where you literally push sounds up to the front of the mix or pull sounds back in the mix. To push them up, volume. To pull them back, volume, filters. You could wash them with reverb. Focus can change though, and it should change. You can't just set these levels for one section of a song and expect it to work for the whole thing. That's not practical. You literally want to ask yourself in each section of your song, what's the focus and do my volumes represent that? The second scenario I want to talk about is when you have certain elements that just come and go in the mix. If we take this drum fill that I have as an example, I like it. I think it's a really cool drum fill. When it comes in, I want it to smack in the mix. I want it to be up front. I can do this because it's just a split second. It's not consistently loud where it would be getting in the way of those other important instruments. Now, the third scenario I want to talk about is actually a really, really big one. When you start mixing punchy elements on top of each other, like I did in this example with my kick and snare, they can cause big problems that end up destroying the clarity and loudness in your mix and master. If you don't address this, you're never going to be able to compete with your reference tracks. So tap the video on screen and I'm going to quickly walk you through the steps to help you get your mix sounding right.